Sir Alden was known throughout the kingdom as a knight of unparalleled courage and deep loyalty. His names were passed down from the lips of people in villages and cities, and stories of his exploits filled the halls of castles and the hearths of ordinary homes. But, despite his fame, Alden always walked humbly through the world, aware that true heroism lies not in seeking glory, but in serving justice and protecting those in need. One cold morning, as the sun was just peeking its first rays through thick clouds, Alden rode through impassable forest paths and winding mountain paths. Surrounded by a silence that almost suffocated the air, he reached a small village on the edge of the village. Shrouded in mist, the village seemed trapped in time, almost absent from the world. The inhabitants watched him warily, eyes filled with fear and uncertainty. Their faces hid 1,000 untold stories of suffering and loss. In the center of the village, by the hearth where a small fire was smoldering, stood an elderly woman. Her wrinkles showed years of pain and uncertainty, and her voice trembled as she spoke. She told Sir Alden a story that made his gut clench. Lyanna, the only daughter of the village's peasants, a girl known for her courage and kindness, had disappeared a few days earlier. There had been no sign of her disappearance, and she had last been seen not far from the old ruins on the hill. According to the legends passed down from generation to generation, Lyanna had been abducted by Malakar, a dark wizard who ruled an old, spooky castle on the Hilltopa Castle of Darkness, where shadows and evil intertwined. Malakar was a master of dark powers, whose power wielded unexplored secrets of magic. No one dared even approach his castle, much less dare to oppose his evil will. The villagers believed that Lyanna was the key, not only to her freedom, but also to the overthrow of his power. But their powerlessness was greater than their desire to fight. Sir Alden could not remain indifferent to such injustice. He firmly threatened to find Lyanna and bring light to this desolate place. He prepared his sword, the blade he had inherited from his father, and a shield on which was engraved the sign of light, a symbol of hope and justice. Without hesitation, he set off on the path towards the castle, aware that numerous challenges awaited him that went beyond ordinary combat. As he passed through dense forest glades and over rocky cliffs, the fog descended lower and lower. Suddenly, the space around him began to change. Illusions appeared as if to test him. He saw scenes of his deepest fears, images of loss, betrayal, and doubt in his own strength. One illusion depicted his family rejecting him for his failure to save Lyanna. Another presented him with scenes of glory tarnished by misfortune. It was easy to succumb to such visions, but deep within, Alden found determination. He remembered the ancient teachings of his mentors about the strength of the spirit, and he knew that only those who maintained faith in the truth could emerge unscathed from the darkness. Every obstacle he encountered, whether it was an angry elf trapped in magic, a cunning riddle written on a stone tablet, or hostile spirits from the past, taught him courage and wisdom. He never backed down. On the contrary, each obstacle only fueled his determination and spurred him on. Finally, after a long and exhausting struggle with shadows and illusions, Sir Alden saw the top of the castle rising above the thick fog and darkness. His mission had only just begun, but he knew inside at the heart of that cold, dark place lay Lyanna, and he would do whatever it took to free her. Lady Seraphina, renowned not only for her impeccable swordsmanship, but also for her sharp intelligence, stood at the entrance to the legendary labyrinth of Malakar. The labyrinth was more than just a series of corridors, and Roomsit was a living, breathing tangle of darkness and illusion, a place where time, space, and reality lost all meaning. Every step could be her last, as the walls shifted, and the corridors hid deadly traps and terrifying creatures that awaited the unwary wanderer. Seraphina entered with a firm resolve. Her mission was clear and unquestionable: to rescue Lyanna, a young girl trapped deep within the labyrinth by Malakar, the powerful Lord of Darkness. But Lady Seraphina could not know what lay ahead, for little power could match the challenges the labyrinth had in store for her. The first steps were accompanied by a whisper-like sound. The walls seemed alive somehow, and the rays of light that filtered through the cracks were barely enough to expose the dark and cold darkness. At one of the intersections, a monster emerged, composed of jaws and sharp claws that flowed like black liquid. Its empty, shining eye sockets watched Seraphina without blinking. There was no time for fear. Lady Seraphina easily drew her sword and went into battle. Each of her blows was precise, calculated, but it was anger and unwavering courage that ultimately overcame the beast. When the monster disappeared in the smoke, she realized that this was no ordinary creature. It was the curse of the labyrinth, designed to break the spirit of whoever walked its halls. But the monsters were not the only problem. The labyrinth was filled with traps and puzzles that tested her wisdom. One room was filled with ancient symbols and countless keys that had to be turned in the correct order. An error in the combination would trigger deadly arrows that flew from the walls. Seraphina, thanks to her extensive education and years of experience with secret letters, carefully studied the symbols, looking for nuances and hidden messages. With patience and attention, she successfully solved the puzzle, and the door opened, allowing her to continue inside. As she progressed, the illusions created by the labyrinth became more intense. She saw images of her loved ones calling to her, trying to distract her from her task. She heard voices filled with fear and doubt, trying to instill a sense of powerlessness in her. But Lady Seraphina found strength within herself. She remembered her vow of fearlessness and dedication to justice. She cast aside the phantoms of lies and continued on her journey. Finally, deep in the heart of the labyrinth, in a room lit by a pale flame, she found Lyanna. But what she saw exceeded all her expectations. Lyanna was no ordinary girl trapped against her will. Her eyes sparkled with an unusual glow, and her aura radiated a power that Seraphina had never seen before. In speaking with Lyanna, she discovered that the girl possessed an ancient power that could destroy Malakar from within. This power was not in the form of powerful magic or destructive weapons, but in the ability to break the magic of darkness with light and pure will. Lyanna, in fact, had inherited the gifts of the ancient sorceresses who had captured Malakar's power centuries ago. And now the time had come for that power to be reawakened, this time as his undoing. Lady Seraphina realized that her task was not only to save Lyanna, but also to help her master this power, for only together could they stop Malakar and bring freedom to a world trapped in his darkness. However, time was not on their side. The labyrinth began to collapse, and the voices of Malakar's anger echoed from underground groans. Sir Cedric of the North Reaches was a knight whose legend was not based on the number of dragons he had slain, but on the number of tears he had dried. His gauntlet bore the words etched into it, "There is light in a drop of darkness," a maxim he had inherited from his mentor, an old hermit who guarded ancient rituals of compassion. When news of Amara, a girl transformed into a dragon by Malakar's curse, arrived, Cedric knew that his path lay not in battle, but in understanding. Before setting foot on Tamurin Castle, Cedric visited the ruins of the Temple of the Three Bosoms, where ancient priests held the secrets of breaking curses. There he found a peeled parchment with a drawing of a dragon whose scales were covered in tear-like runes. The old guardian, with eyes like dull marbles, whispered the key to him. "A curse is like iceate melts under the warmth of the heart, not the sword." With it, he was given a small glass vial filled with water reflections, a liquid that reflects the true nature of whatever it touches. All the way through the Mirkwood, where the trees exhaled darkness like smoke, Cedric felt the eyes of invisible beings following him. Even the wind whispered in Amara's voice, "Do not save me, but understand." The castle was not a building, but a living organism of bones and black roots. The entrance door was created only when Cedric cut his palm and let the blood fall to the ground. "The price of entry is sharing suffering," said a voice from the ground. Inside, the walls breathed, and the floors turned into a swamp whenever a step was guided by fear. Malakar met him in the Hall of Mirrors, where endless versions of Cecil's character were reflected. His powerlessness, his anger, his despair. "Behold, a hero who thinks love can conquer magic," the wizard growled, his shadow rising to the ceiling. But Cedric didn't look at the mirrors. Instead, he cast water reflection onto the floor, revealing a hidden mosaic depicting Amara's life. How she had nursed wounded birds as a child, how she had first felt magic when she touched a lichen-covered stone. Amara the dragon was bound in dragonbone chains, but her gaze spoke louder than her roars. Cedric noticed three things. Claws. Though as large as swords, they were bent back, as if defending herself from her own body. Wings. Her left wing was covered in scars, shaped like human fingers, where Amara had tried to pluck feathers. Tears. Every tear that fell to the floor created a flower of ice, which would instantly melt into water. Cedric laid the sword on the floor and removed his gloves. "I will not touch you until I give my word," he said, closing his eyes to show his vulnerability. Instead of berating Amaru, Cedric began to sing the Song Without Words, a melody that shepherds use to calm their sheep during storms. Each note was like a brush that removed the layer of darkness from Amaru's being. Malakar threw a black bolt of lightning at Cedric, but the dragon instinctively hid the knight's body under its wings. He discovered the shocking truth. The curse was two-way. Malakar had turned Amaru into a dragon to hide the fact that he himself was under the curse. His heart was frozen in a ball of ice, and Amaru's love was the only thing keeping him alive. Cedric used the fire without smoke, a ritual where flames were created from memories. He recalled moments when he had felt helpless, the death of his sister, the loss of his friend in battle, even Malakar's rage as a child, which he had seen in the mirrors. Each memory turned into a blue flame that surrounded Amara, but her skin remained intact. The fire did not destroy the curse, but separated it from her body, Amara explained, now in half-human form, as dark magic floated between her and Malakar like a spider's web. Malakar shot at Cedric with his ice sword, but the knight did not return the attack. Instead, he threw his sword before the wizard. "Your strength comes from the fear of love. Take my sword and kill me, but know that your heart will weep for the rest of your life for this act." The wizard paused. At that moment, Amara gathered all the remaining tears in her palms and threw them into Malakar's eyes. The tears were full-blooded human. Lady Rosalind of Hot Stone had no illusions about her mission. Malakar's castle was not a building, but a being of the bowels and curses. The walls were breathing muscles covered with eyelids that followed her through the halls. Entry required no key, but a sacrifice of memory. Rosalind cut her palm and placed her hand on the door of living flesh, speaking the name of her dead mother. Elira. Blood was swallowed, and the door opened with the sound of a heart-breaking crack. The corridor turned into a toothy maw, where every step activated mechanisms of bone. Rosalind threw a glass ball filled with silver powder, a poison for dark magic, revealing Isolde's bloody prints on the floor. The mirror was not an object. It was a living disease formed in glass. The frame of ribs and hair of human victims pulsed with every 13 beats of Rosalind's heart. She saw Isolde trampling her dead body, holding Malakar's hand and laughing. "You were only a bridge to my power." A child with her face, the stillborn son she had been hiding, stood before her, wearing her dragon medallion. "Mother, why am I less worthy than her?" Herself in Malakar's cloak, burning villages and building pyramids of skulls, while Isolde's voice whispered to her, "Every heroine becomes a monster when she sees the true face of power." Rosalind used her own love as bait. She tore her shirt to reveal the scar where Isolde had once saved her life. Laughter from the past echoed through the castle, weakening the mirror. Instead of destroying the mirror, Rosalind removed her own heart using an alchemical illusion, without physical damage. Holding it to the surface, she cried out, "Here is my greatest fear, that I will lose her and become you. But here is my strength. I love her more than I hate myself." The mirror began to melt into silver rain, but Isolde was not freed. Malakar had transformed her body into a bridge between worlds. The final battle. Love versus the void. Isolde, though bound in chains of blood, sang the ancient song Rosalind had composed for her birthday. The voice transformed Rosalind's tattoos into living dragons of flame, but each flame ate away at her memories of Isolde. As the flames consumed the mirror, Rosalind lost her memory of their first kiss under the drains, the battle at Yellow Bridge, even the color of Isolde's eyes. She bit her tongue until it bled, using the pain to activate the final rune, a symbol of undying love. As the castle collapsed, Rosalind held the weeping Isolde. The mirror was destroyed, but the price was high. Rosalind forgot all feelings for Isolde, retaining only the physical memory of her touch. The remaining piece of silver stuck to her left eye, giving her visions of alternate realities where she rules Malakar's realm. A necklace of dragon claws engraved with all their shared moments, but the key to deciphering it lay in Rosalind's unconscious hatred of her own weakness. Rosalind to the mirror. If I am a demon, then love is my hell. If I am a heroine, love is my cross. Isolde to Malakar. You turned her love into a weapon, but you forgot. Weapons always have a vengeance. Rosalind after amnesia. Who are you, woman whose touch burns my skin? Final image. The castle collapses as Rosalind stands with Isolde in her arms, her left eye shining silver, her right empty, like a waterless well. Isolde holds the bleeding necklace as Malakar's body disintegrates into black roses. Background. Mirror shards form a bloody bridge to the sky, where an alternate version of Rosalind is seen receiving a crown of bones. Sir Tristan of Dark Hill was not a singer or a lyric hero. He was a voiceless knight, whose tongue he had lost in battle against the Whispering Witch. Entering the castle where silence had become physical matter was a personal hell for him. Every step echoed through the halls like the beat of a drum. The walls were covered in glowing wax that absorbed sound like mushrooms. The seal of Malakar, a dragon with severed wings, was carved into each threshold, and every touch on it caused pain like cutting through skin. Tristan's sword, Wind Sword, forged from metals that sing in fire, was mute. Not even the sound of its blade on stone produced an echo. On the black marble steps, he discovered a bleeding footprint with traces of gold dust, her mark, leading him through a labyrinth of closed mouths carved into the walls. Lyanna was no prisoner, was a living catalyst for Malakar's magic. Kept in a cage of songbird bones, her skin was covered in musical notes that pulsed with the rhythm of her breathing. Discovery. When Tristan touched her, the first sound in the castle was her soba crack in the silence like spilled glass. As she pointed to her throat, Tristan saw a spiderweb-shaped scar. Malakar had taken her voice, but not her memory of songs. Unfortunately, only two voices could sing the song of liberation, Tristan's and hers. To replace his lost voice, Tristan used 3 artifacts. A golden string, forged from a maiden's tears, wrapped around his larynx, converting pain into frequencies. Each movement caused vibrations that could simulate a musical note. A goblet of dragon tears contained the last voice of Lyanna's mother, stored in liquid silver. A book made of the skins of former poets, the pages turned by themselves, revealing the text of a forgotten poem only if touched with hopeless blood. The Song of Liberation was not a verset, was a physical act. Verse 1. Lyanna slammed her fist into her chest, causing a resonance in the cage of bones. Tristan slammed his sword into the ground, creating a rhythm through the vibrations. Verse 2. The golden string on Tristan's neck began to slip, cutting his skin to the point of bluteach. Drop a note in C major. Verse 3. Lyanna swallowed a cup of dragon tears, and her mother's voice poured through it like an organ. Cosmic dissonance. The silence began to materialize in the form of black visions. First appearance. Tristan's mother, whom he had lost in the fire, walked down the hall, whispering, "Play, son, while I burn." Second appearance. Malakar's true face, a boy with his ears sewn shut with rope, crying in a circle of blurry mirrors. Third appearance. Lyanna's future, blinded and mute, walking through an empty, lifeless village. Reaction. Each vision amplified the power of the song, but also drained Lyanna's blood. The gold dust on her feet turned to gray dust. The breakdown of silence and the price. As the final note rang out, the castle crumbled to the rhythm of a waltz. Mirrors. They turned into shards of ice that pierced Malakar's body, revealing him to be the embodiment of silence, a being without a throat, with ears covered in the wax of dead poets. The stone dwellers, turned into statues, burst from within, and flowers sprouted from the cracks, singing nursery rhymes. Lyanna's scars blossomed into a living web that connected her to Tristan now. They could hear each other's thoughts, but only if they were in pain. Tristan and Lyanna did not speak after the ritual. The silent alliance became stronger than words. She gave Tristan her ear, taken from Malakar's collection. Now he could hear the sounds of colors and the whisper of footsteps miles away. He gave her his messenger, an organ he had once kept in a bottle. Lyanna wore it around her neck, each breath through it, creating a new note in a song they had never written down. Tristan and Lyanna stand on the ruins of the castle, their bodies pulsing with light in the shape of musical notes. Lyanna's web of scars stretches skyward like a score, while Tristan's sword lies broken in the shape of a violin clef. Behind them, the village awakens through song. Children's drawings on the walls of the houses come to life and sing children's melodies. Malakar's face, etched into the moon above, cries bloody tears that turn into quail birds.